Hello friends, it's my pleasure to welcome you to my channel Laser Graphics and Multimedia, and in today's video you are going to learn how to create a simple web banner in Photoshop. But before we dive into the tutorial, if you are very new to this channel, remember to click on the subscribe. So with that being said, let's dive into the tutorial and see how you can create simple web banner in Photoshop. So the first thing first, you have to go to the home tab here, click on File, and make sure you click on New. Then you need to come to the top right here, and at the top here you have to type in simple web banner. Alright, so from the point right here, you have to switch from inches to pixels. Then you have to come to the width size right here, type in 1339. Then you have to come to the height and make sure you type in 346. Then you make sure your resolution is 300. Then you have to come to the color mode right here. You have to switch from CMYK to RGB color. So finally, you have to calm down right here and make sure you click on create. All right, so let's see how we can play with shapes and color to form a kind of simple web banner in Photoshop. So the first thing first, you have to go to your toolbar right here. You have to click and hold down. So we're going to form everything from rectangle. So choose your rectangle tools. Having chosen a rectangle, you have to come to the rectangle property right here. Make sure shape is checked, and then you can pick color from the point here. So you have to draw your rectangle. So right here, I'm going to draw a very big rectangle at the start. Then we have to come down below right here, and we come back to background layer. Then from background layer, we have to go back to our color right here. We have to change the color. And this time around, I'm using black. Then we have to come to the workspace. I will make another rectangle beside this one right here. Then I will make sure this is very much snap. Alright, so next thing I'm going to do is to come to the layer right here. I will right click on the layer, and I will make sure I go to duplicate layer. Then I will make this rectangle 3, and I'll click on OK. Next thing I want to do right here is to drag the rectangle 3, and I will drag it to this point right here and make sure it also snap to the top. So next thing I'm going to do right here is to come back to the layer panel right here. I will select my rectangle 2. I will press shift key on my keyboard, and I will select my rectangle 1. Then the next thing I'm going to do is to go to the home tab right here. I will go to edit, and I will look for free transform. Then I have to right click on the shape right here, and I'll make sure I click on skew. Then having click on skew, I will have to come to the top right here, and I will skew this shape this way. So once you're satisfied with the skew, then you have to come to the top right here and click on this check mark to accept the free transform. Now what I'm going to do next is that I'll come down below right here. I will make sure I group all this layer. Alright, so next thing I'm going to do is to go to my home tab right here. I will go to select. I will make sure I choose all. Then I will make sure I align this particular shape to the left edge. So we're going to have stuff like this. Then we have to go back to select. I'll make sure I click on deselect. Then I can adjust this particular shape a little bit. So for me to do that, I have to go to the home tab right here. I will make sure I click on edit, free transform. Then I'll have to drag from here. I'll make sure then I'll come to the home tab right here and click on this check mark to accept the transform. Next thing I want to do, I'll go to select from the home tab right here. I will make sure I click on all. Then I will make sure I align this properly. So once I'm satisfied, I have to go back to select. I'll make sure I deselect. So we're going to have stuff like this. Then we can go back to edit again, free transform. Then we can press shift key on our alt key on our keyboard, and shift key just to increase the shape style more and more. Then we can come to the home tab right here. Once we satisfy, we click on this check mark to approve. Then we have to fall back to our select again. We click on all. Then we make sure we align it properly. Then we go back to select, and we make sure we deselect. So we're going to have stuff like this. We can click on this window to close it up. So the next thing we want to do right here is to go back to our toolbar. We click and hold down. This time around, we have to make sure we choose our rectangle again. Then we have to fall back to the layer panel right here. We go back to our background layer. Then we have to draw a tiny rectangle from the background at the bottom. We have to come to the top here and make sure we click on close this window. Then we have to come to the layer right here. We right click on the layer. Then we make sure we look for duplicate layer. So this duplicate layer here, we can make it rectangle 2 copy. Okay. And we have to make sure we drag this one right here and take it to the top here. So the next thing we want to do now is to add appropriate color to all this particular shape right here. So we can start from the top right here. We come to the layer thumbnail. We double click on the layer thumbnail. And we look for color from the point right here. I'm going to use this type of blue. And I'm going to click on OK. Then we have to select this one right here. We double click on the layer thumbnail. And we choose this color. And we hit on OK. So we have to select on this. Then we double click on the layer thumbnail. So you can see the color code I use for this one right here. And I'll click on OK. Then I have to select on this particular shape right here. I will double click on the layer thumbnail. Then I'll come here and paste the color code. And I'll click on OK. Then we have to select on this particular shape. We have to work on this blue right here. We double click on the layer thumbnail. And I need dark blue, something like this. And I'll have to make sure I copy the color code and I click on OK. I'll have to select on this. I'll double click on the layer thumbnail. Then I'll paste the color code right here and I'll click on OK. So the next thing I'm going to do is to select on this particular shape here. And I'll go to Home tab right here. I'll go to File. Then I'll look for Place Embedded. Then we have to come to the layer thumbnail right here. We'll right click on the layer and we'll make sure click on create clipping mask. So the next thing I need to do right here is to come to the blend mode right here and I will choose multiply. Then we have to come to the opacity. We make sure we turn down the opacity to 95%. So next thing we want to do is to add text and icon to our banner. Okay.
Never break, always fight, never quit, do it right, play the game, win it life, have no shame, there's no time, feel the pain, live the grind, I could change, in my mind, pick a lane, commit and climb, the only way to win it life, I never miss that fact, taking big swings, hand me the bat, put me in the ring, you'll go out in a bag, cause I sing what I mean and I bring it to the mad light, ain't got time to kill, I got time to feel, I took the red pill, I know life's short so I wanna live real, but how's it supposed to feel? How's it supposed to feel? How's it supposed to feel? They wanna say my name, but they holding back. They wanna say they hate, but they know it's cap. I ain't play no games, I just do that's fact. And I don't feel no shame, it's a mood you lack. I go crazy, nah, but I ain't lazy. Track after track, track, I work on the shit daily. Pass me the jack, right as fuel, got me hazy. About to unpack all these things I've been chasing. I've got visions in my head, like memories after death. To be a legend instead of something you can forget. I'm living up every breath, I'd rather lead than be led. I'll fill the seats as I spread, with every word that I've said.
As it's supposed to feel.